Welcome to Podcast Suck, a podcast about starting a podcast, where we dive headfirst into the wild, wacky, and sometimes frustrating world of podcasting. If you've ever sat down with a microphone, hit record and thought, what on earth am I doing? Or if you're just curious about the magic behind your favorite shows, then you're in the right place. Get ready for laughs, insights, and a whole lot of what not to do advice as we embark on this podcasting journey together. Let's dive in. What's happening, podcasters? Welcome back to the show. Welcome to the show, wherever you may be joining us. I'm glad you're here. All right, we're going to dive into podcast editing. One of my favorite topics to cover when someone says, should I edit my own podcast? I immediately say, absolutely not, unless, of course, you enjoy that process. However, even if you enjoy the podcast editing process, you psycho, I'm just kidding. Kind of. It's still a time suck. It's still taking time, precious time out of your day where you could be working and doing something different, whether it's working on your podcast, your business, your family, life, whatever it may be. There's a better way when it comes to podcast editing. But for you do-it-yourselfers, I want to cover both aspects, how to edit your podcast, and then also, for those of you like, get this off my plate as soon as possible, I'm going to give you some quick tips, tricks, and tools to leverage getting that off your plate as soon as possible. Let's dive in. All right, first and foremost, if you're a Mac user, you can use one of two softwares, Audacity, which is a free download for PC users and for Mac users, or GarageBand. Again, this is for do-it-yourselfers. You're going to record your podcast episode. You're going to load it into one of those softwares, and you should have already gotten your podcast intro and outro done, so you should have those files. So if you pull up GarageBand, the first audio file that goes in is your intro. The second track is your podcast episode. Third track is your outro. Now, you're listening to this podcast, so I'm not visually showing you anything. But if you understand audio editing, you understand the first track's going to be your intro. The second track's going to be the episode. Third track's most likely going to be your outro. Then you can go in there and fool around with it and edit the sound and master the track and do all the stuff that audio engineers do that I know nothing about. But again, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you more than for sure, is that even a real phrase? Can figure this out and do it on your own. GarageBand or Audacity, that's like the basic, just quick little overview of audio editing. Now, I would be absolutely negligent not to mention the fact that there are numerous AI, artificial intelligence tools available for you to be able to leverage and take advantage of to get your podcast edited. I don't know any of them off the top of my head other than maybe Descript or Decipher. Here's what you do. Go to Google, type in podcast editing AI tools or AI tools for podcast editing. There was like 2,000 podcasting tools launched just this year. So I'm confident you'll be able to find something that can help with the process. You'll more than likely sign up. They'll give you a free episode. You'll sign up for whatever their fee is, $20 a month, $30 a month, whatever it may be. And you'll load your raw episode into the platform. And the platform will then edit out, improve the sound, etc. of your podcast episode. Now, how to add the intro and outro, I really don't know. You probably add those files in there too, but there is a way to automate this process. Again, do-it-yourselfers. GarageBand or Audacity, old school audio editing, which is not that hard. Once you have a template set up with your intro and your outro, all you're doing is slapping new episodes in, exporting the file after you've tweaked the sound and made it sound as good as you possibly can. Other option, artificial intelligence tools. Just got done explaining exactly how you can find those. There is a plethora of them available. I do not know any off the top of my head. We mainly leverage AI tools here at the Podcast Launch Lab Agency for show notes, transcriptions, captions for videos, stuff like that. We have an audio editing team that actually goes and takes a raw file and turns it into a podcast episode. And that's what I want to talk to you about next. Outsourcing it, getting it off your plate. You can go to Fiverr.com. I mentioned that many times before. I'm going to drop the link in the description of this podcast episode. Yes, it is my affiliate link. No, you don't pay any more with my affiliate link. Just Fiverr's way of saying, hey, thanks for sending people our way. Not sure they've ever sent me a commission check, but just in case. Go to Fiverr, type in podcast editor, audio editor. Go to Upwork, go to freelancer.com. Anywhere you source freelancers from, there is an abundance of podcast editors available. They'll be more than happy to edit your podcast episode for probably 10, maybe 15, maybe $20 an episode. In fact, I think 20, $25 an episode, they'll go through and remove all the ums and uhs if you're that kind of individual that must have those removed. I say become a better communicator versus trying to edit out all of your mistakes. Ums and uhs are filler words. That's not what this podcast episode's about. We'll get to that in another podcast episode. Filler words. Working on a series right now called How to Talk. Just a quick plug for that, so stay tuned. But right now, we're going through step by step our process, the process I've created, the process I wrote my book after, the process we do here at the Podcast Launch Lab for our clients, the podcast process that I follow for all of my podcasts, just like this one. So if you're tuning in right now, right into the podcast editing episode, go back to the beginning. If you're starting a show, you don't want to miss out on going through each and every step. You can always come back and listen to this all over again. But for those of you at this step, you got two options. Outsource it, do it yourself. And if you do it yourself, you got a couple of options. GarageBand or Audacity. Good luck. It's not a fun process, but hey, I'm not going to tell you can't do something. And there's also AI tools, artificial intelligence tools, to help you edit your podcast. So based on both of all of those, and if you ask me, again, Sebastian, should I edit my own podcast? I'm going to let you know that I'd rather wake up in the morning, punch myself in the face, and eat my pillow than edit another podcast episode. I can't tell you the last time I edited a podcast episode. It's at least a good 3+ years. Thank you, Jesus. I can't tell you the frustrating, because I would get to the end of the editing. I think I'd be, I'm good. I'm done. I spent an hour doing this. I'm getting ready to export. Who needs an editor? I did this. And then like the software crashes or something, or my computer crashes or dies or runs out of battery or whatever the case may be. When you outsource it, you send the raw file, you send them your intro and your outro, and they make it all tie together and sound pretty. It is a beautiful process. So if you know you shouldn't be spending time editing your own podcast episode, get out of scarcity of, I don't want to do it, but I'm doing it because I don't want to spend money. That's scarcity. That's keeping you more in the space of exactly where you're at right now by saying, I can't do this because I don't have enough. There is a lack there. There is no lack. Your only lack is your lack of action of getting it off of your plate. Does that make sense? Your only lack is the lack of action you're taking to get the task off your plate so you can be doing something far more productive for your life, your business, your family, for you, whatever it might be. D, all of the above. Those are my 2 cents on podcast editing. Do it yourself or get it off your plate. If you ask me, get it off your plate as soon as possible. You can't afford to not get it off your plate. How about that? Questions, thoughts, ideas, concerns about this podcast episode, please hit me up on Instagram. Podcasts Suck. That's podcasts with 2 S's. Podcasts Suck. On Instagram, Sebastian Rusk. On LinkedIn and on Facebook. All links are in the description of this podcast episode. Hit me up about this episode, any episodes on this show. Questions, ideas, thoughts. Let me know where you're at with your podcast episode too. I am here to help. That's what this podcast is all about. It's a podcast about helping you start and grow a podcast. I will see all of you wonderful people next time. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We sure do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. This way you'll get updates as new episodes become available. If you feel so inclined, please leave us a review and share the show with someone you know should start a podcast or may already have one. And remember, podcasts suck if you don't have one. Until next time, friends.